Hello, one and all, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is the 18th of May of 2022, and it's time for Manga Talk. It's your friends, Nick and Quinn, here to talk about... I'm turning to Randy Newman.
I was curious where this bit was going. Like, and I'm going to be there to sing you a song. Deku is talking to his friend. His friend's got a big fiery X on his chest.
I mean, it's not as catchy as the Randy Newman song.
And he says, I'm going to beat up my brother. And then the other dude who blows up is there. Randy Newman, do you have a song about Undead Unluck? Well, Andy is the talking to his person in his head. Just keep... Like, do any of your songs rhyme?
Taking what he sees. That's it.
Akane wants to participate in the thing.
Oh, thank you for the award. Okay. It's just sets you at ease, and it's about what you're watching.
Just gives you the comfort of knowing exactly what's ahead.
That's right.
I did. This is oh, you right?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have a very minor story to share. I did a 5K over the weekend. This is the first time I've run in a while, and I hurt myself. Not doing the 5K, I hurt myself gardening and watering a plant and standing up wrong, and I fucked up my knee and jammed it. I'm like, what has happened? Is this what I've become?
That's the weird thing about like physical exertion, isn't it? It's like, oh, here's the thing that like I push my body to its limit, its absolute limit in this tremendous feat of physical fitness and endurance. And I bent my arm at just like 1 degree off of the proper angle, and now it's fucked for the next 5 days.
Yeah. That's the plus side. I'm not quite at the point where it's like it'll just be like this forever. Hopefully, I mean, knock on wood. But it is one of those things that just like, time to, it's really like that SpongeBob joke, like time to water my spice garden. They're like, ow, ooh, oof.
I don't think I even remember that one.
It's the Weenie Hut Jr. episode. He's like, I'll have you know, I stubbed my toe watering my spice garden, and I only cried for 15 minutes.
Right, okay. Watering my spice garden.
I don't know. It's one of those great. SpongeBob really was on fire in those like 2 or 3 seasons.
Oh boy. So I've got to tell you guys something. In terms of the content that we're going to be going over today, we're going to be beginning and ending the show talking about a long built-up battle between 2 people, involving the hero punching the on-fire villain and defeating them. And one of them has gotten a lot more attention than the others. So let's talk about them.
Let's do it.
We're going to kick things off with My Hero Academia. It's chapter number 352. Which I think is one of those things where like, we're going to put the chapter title at the end so that Nick looks like an idiot when he's trying to recite the title. Oh, well, it's not here. So
Nick is figured chapter title. Where is it at?
There it is. I just wasn't scroll down enough. It's Ultimate Moves.
He found the chapter title. Now he's going to talk about the manga.
Look at that. All the boys are naked.
I don't like this song anymore, Mr. Newman.
Mr.
Newman, I'd like to ask you to stop singing this song, please.
So we can start the chapter on a flashback with the boys of Class 1A. They're getting into the baths. And Deku chooses this moment above any other to talk to Todoroki about like, oh, I can't believe you've got to fight your brother possibly to the death. And meanwhile, in the background, Ida's telling everyone like, let's all bathe really quickly because he's like that. I mean, that's honestly, I think if I needed to like sum up Ida's character to someone who had never heard of the series in about like, 5 seconds, like, well, he once told his classmates to finish bathing within 30 minutes. Like that's yeah. So
he's punctual.
Yeah, he is. Also, it's easy enough for Ida to say that he's got super speed, so he'll just Todoroki clarifies that he asked to fight Dabi and instead of having his father take care of it. And he says, look, Dabi is my family's crime, my family's responsibility. And besides, in order to reach the heights that I'm aiming for, I can't run from this. This new move of mine will get me past that wall to those heights. We're just like, all right, it's a weird place to put your focus right now, considering, the giant family drama going on. I was like, but this super new move will also give me mega points and level me up. It's like, all right, whatever. And he starts to go into explaining how his move works while he demonstrates it. He summons the X of flame across his chest, and Kaminari, being a big old idiot, is just like, look, I can poke it and it's not hot. Okay.
Sure.
It's a good thing you were right.
Well, he's shown this off before. To the classmates. Just Deku hasn't seen it. I guess so.
Yeah, because Deku's busy. I don't know.
Well, so. Deku had left the school.
It's true. Yeah.
So this happened to me. That's why Kaminari's being an idiot. He's seen this before and being like, see, you can poke it. It doesn't hurt.
Do you think that he also demonstrated this in the bath before?
Maybe. I mean, he's not technically demonstrating it in the bath right now.
Do you think he was just like, he just like dropped trow and was like, all right, everyone, now that our dicks are hanging out, check out what I can do.
He's not even in the water. He's just, hey guys, check this out. Pulls down his pants and then lights up his fire. He's like, oh, sorry, I realize now the first part of this made it sound like I was trying to show you something else. No, please stop staring at my penis. Look at my cool special move.
He also goes on to say that he can, he has elevated his ability so that he can use both sides of his body at the same time. My heart is central to making both hot and cold manifest. I can cycle heated and chilled blood throughout to create stability inside my body, which, all right, he can control his heart. Okay. Whatever. Look, he's got ice and fire powers. He has cold flame powers now. Okay, fine. But he also says that, this is taking a different direction for what Endeavor kind of intended with his genetic experimenting and stuff. His father sought out to have ice that would stifle the inner heat. I'm going the other direction. Fair enough. And but he says, after summing all this up to Deku, hey, this is my power. Thank you. Which calls way back to like chapter 30 or something. When they fought and Deku told him, this is your power, it's not your father's. And now it seems like he's finally, pulled all that together. And we cut forward to the present, where Todoroki is unleashing his combined hot and cold abilities together in these cold flames, and is seemingly cooling Dabi's fire. And Dabi is pushed back. And he's like, oh, so he can withstand my heat now, and he can chill my inferno. Fine. I'm going to set more stuff on fire now. And he just talks about how they've ended up different, and as Dabi gets set to charge forward and set more and more things on fire, Todoroki's flame suddenly snuffs out. Because it's a new ability, he hasn't completely mastered it, he loses control of it easily. And Dabi starts ranting about how the two of them represent the limitations of superpowered society, which, I mean, I get how he is. I don't quite get how Shoto is, but okay. And he basically makes like a bunch of volcanic eruptions happen by projecting his flames through the ground, and demands that Shoto burn to ash. But Endeavor's sidekicks seem to get in the way. There's a lot of detail on these panels, and it's hard to tell what's going on at times in this fight.
Yeah, I would
because
say
there's so much.
The art is difficult to see at times, and this is sort of a Horikoshi thing. His art style is very distinct. It's very cool. I would say effects like this, though, sometimes become very difficult to read. The first panel, the icebound crash and everything, I also was like, are they both attacking each other?
Right.
I couldn't, it's difficult to tell whose fire is whose. This is something that'll be, I think, a lot cleaner when it's animated. In this version, it's a little hard to read all of the action.
Yeah, you've got when it's, Dabi will have like the blue flames, and Shoto will have, orange, or hell, maybe like white flames or something.
Yeah.
Because it's cold or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, Endeavor sidekicks, they're basically knocked out of commission from this.
Oh no!
Oh no, they'll be fine.
Blazing.
Look, that's her name. Yes.
Okay.
No, Burnin.
Burnin.
Yeah. And the others.
Centipede? Is that
and
a
the
person?
others. No.
I tried.
Also, Shoto even gets burned by this. That's how hot the flames are that Dabi has summoned. And he apologizes for the psychics getting hurt on his behalf. But they're like, oh, whatever, just do it, do your thing. So he thinks about how he has gotten to this point now, and how he has been on this long path towards reaching the point where he is now, held back by his past with his abusive father and everything involving his family. And then as he imagines himself on this path, he looks ahead and he sees all of his classmates all way ahead of him. But when he looks towards them, they're actually waiting for him and beckoning him on to join them. And he thinks to himself how, Class A never left anyone behind. They were always there to reassure me. And now he builds up his energy, and we get the words of the greatest instructor in the history of My Hero Academia, that one master of heroism that we can always look to say the wisest words. Mount Lady.
Hey, at least this one wasn't like, come on, girls, push it out a little bit if you want to get a good job.
It's not her butt
this,
speak.
This one's actually like, in a battle manga sense, good advice.
Right. It's the thing that she said to the class, and largely Shoto at the time, if I remember correctly, your ultimate moves that symbolize you. Through those moves, people learn what you're capable of. And Shoto dashes forward and plants his palm directly in Dabi's chest and says, we're going to mingle whether you like it or not, so just stop it already. And he unleashes a giant white flame that goes through Dabi and blasts away the area behind him in a great glacial ager, which burns and freezes everything. And when the dust settles, we see that buildings in the background have been frozen over by this. And we also get a brief image of as if a young Shoto has just hit a young Toya with this ability too. So this seems like it should be the end of this fight.
Unless it's Ida's, he gets back up and it's Ida's time to shine.
Yeah, really.
He's I just kicked him really hard.
This feels like if this proceeds any further, it's like, no, you called the finish at the wrong time. That was the high point.
You should have just pinned him there. I don't know why you had to get up at 2 and then give him a power bomb and then pin him.
I had to get all my stuff in.
I like the actual end of this a lot. I think this is a cool visual at the end where he's just basically frozen an entire city block. And I do like the little touch of as the hit happens, you see the two of them as kids. It's a very sweet little moment, and it's Toya looking sad about it too. Like
Yeah.
this is not like it's definitely like the grief kind of coming in and the connection there, and I like that a lot. As for like the whole chapter, I'm actually kind of surprised this happened here. I thought we were gonna.
Seems a little early.
I thought we were gonna kind of build up all these side fights and then like start to like really hammer them in at one point. But as I said, like I can't see any more real like maybe Dobby doing like getting up and just kind of sacrificing himself in like a big explosion or something. Like I like that's the only thing I can even remotely see happening because I'm like yeah this has to kind of be like the climax of that. So it is a little bit interesting. I'm curious to see if they do anything there. Because I was kind of hoping Ida would have a role, and this is the fight he was at, so...
Yeah, maybe... They've got teleport. They've got, like, you know, he runs fast.
Maybe I was going to say, yeah, maybe he lifts up Toya and just fucking runs him somewhere really, really fast or something like that. I don't know.
All right. Well, from the end of one fight to the end of another.
Yes, this one also seems quite conclusive. Let's talk about Undead Unluck, number 110, God of Death. Bless you. That's not foreboded at all. So we open where the chapter left last time, where Andy has been struck in the head by Rip. Latla was sacrificed in it, and she's just like, don't we worry, Leela, your dashing prince is coming to save you. And we cut in on Andy, who is seeing sort of this touching goodbye between Latla and Rip, who's run over to her to tend to her in her last moments. And Victor shows up. And he just says, are you just going to let them win? Because, like, if you admit defeat at this point, the points will transfer to them. Rip will go through the loop, and that'll save Layla. But if you swap with me now... we can most likely deactivate Unrepair because I'm not the original target. However, is your vision of justice great enough for the task? And he's like, what, you mean my vision of justice? He says, yes. Whenever people need to make major decisions, follow the path their justice shows them. Granted, I'm just parodying what Juez would tell me. For those two, their decision is a simple one. All they want is to save a lone woman by their own hands, and therein lies an unwavering vision of justice. And if you don't have a vision capable of trumping that, then you can forget about it. And he cuts him off and says, nope, I'm the same as them. Exactly the same. I want to see the person I love laughing and smiling. But then he brings up a very good point where he's like, but with Fuko, it's very difficult because if anything bad were to happen to someone she knows, then she'd never be able to genuinely laugh or smile. And she cares about these two. So for Fuko to really succeed, they need to succeed as well. If I let them both go, then I won't be able to stop the end of the world. And even if they do manage to save one person, the next Ragnarok will be waiting around the corner and everyone will be doomed. So Victor's like, all right, then there's only one solution. Let Fuko ride the arc and go through the loop. And then Juez, Billy, Rip's groups. This one blew my mind. He says Gina and Void, both of whom you killed. This loop has seen its fair share of tragedy. And I like it because we see a collage of these different characters. And we have Void in there, and there's no pertinent emotional scene for Void. It's him talking about his fucking bullets and bullshit.
Yeah.
There was no, like, Void, like, no, the tragedy, or anything like that. He's just right there. But Victor's like, that's why you need the loop with the two keys to slaying God, Undead and Unluck, to prevent all of the tragedies that have occurred in this loop and rebuild the Union. And Andy's like, so you're telling me to give up on this loop? He's like, yeah. And if you try to convince Rip, you won't. Your words won't stop him. In order to truly save them, you have to stop them right here, right now. Are you prepared to carry on the fate of the world on your shoulders? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll save everybody. And to accomplish that goal, I'll become a god of death if I have to. So we cut over to Rip, who's just like, Latla, I did it. We managed to beat Undead, thanks to you. And now we're gonna save Latla and everything. I'm gonna ride the ark and pick you up.
Oh man, hope nobody comes and kicks this puppy.
and Latla's just dying slowly, being like, don't worry, the next time we meet, I won't be seeing you with all these hideous things on your body. And Rip's like, right, got it. And then he senses Andy standing up behind him. And it's so sad because he says, don't you worry, you can rest easy. He knows exactly what's about to happen. And Latla's just like, okie dokie. And he stands up and Victor / Andy just destroys Rip, just immediately shatters his arms.
He just like punches them off. Like,
yeah. And this is all juxtaposed by a small scene showing Rip first taking off his arm, and then later Latla crying upon seeing that he's done it to his legs as well, it looks like. And Andy goes back, does his dead end road or whatever, and presumably just kills Rip, or at least completely defeats him using his blood. And Latla just is crying because she knows, like, shit, it didn't work. Like, it's brutal. Someone pointed out to me in the Discord that if you go all the way back to the Autumn arc, Unknown said something to Rip along the extent of, you will cost Latla's life in attempt to gain something that you will fail to gain, or something like that. So it looks like their visions are spot on. Their predictions are pretty good. But
yeah, there's so many good details in this sequence. Like, I love that we start off on this build up, and then as soon as we get out of it, we just go from 0 to 60 immediately. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna see, a turnaround here. It's like, oh yeah, but you have no idea how hard it's gonna turn around.
It is brutal. Like, one, it's kind of horrifying in a way because it almost kind of turns Andy into like a horror movie monster.
Oh, absolutely. Like, look, he is like Jason in this moment.
He's like, I'm gonna have to kill you. Probably gonna have to kill a couple other people, but you don't understand. It is for the good of everybody that I get to do this loop. And I also love, and I've been kind of thinking about this too, the detail that it's like Fuko has to do the loop. Because she, more than anybody, one, they need her in the next loop as well, but they need her knowledge, I think, of everything and her ability to care about things as much to see, like, okay, how can we stop these tragedies from happening, hopefully. Like, it seems like something that'd be really cool to see. But I almost want to see what Fuko does when this happens, because, like, if Andy just fucking murders Rip here, she's going to be a little upset.
Yeah, I think so.
Have to imagine. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. It's an awesome moment, though. It's straight up just fucking ruthless.
Yeah. I love that, like, you don't see really any of the quote-unquote fight at all. You just see Rip getting his ass kicked, basically. Yeah. The first thing you see as soon as they come to blows is Rip's arm's been destroyed. And then you see him trying to do a kick, but then immediately, Rip's legs have been destroyed. Yeah. And now he's being blasted through the floor. And Latla crying. And I honestly love Rip just screaming, damn it. Like, because that's all he can do. Like, he's that utter feeling of powerlessness, and he just knows that he's failed. And that's just it. It's heart-wrenching. And also, I really, really like when he's holding Latla and he knows that she's dying, and, he thinks that things are going to be okay, / he knows things are not going to be okay. It's hard to tell when the switch actually happens. Because of his eye, when he's crying, it's, his eye is ruined and there's just this blood streaming down from it. And it's, one of those reminders of, like, oh, this is how badly this guy's been messed up through everything, through all of this and all that he's had to put up with in trying to accomplish his goals. And now it's just all for nothing. And that's sad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you wanted also people to be like, okay, we're doing it for these guys' sake too. It's like, yeah, I hope you do it, because, geez.
You're kind of fucking them over real big time at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome chapter.
All right. Where do we go from here?
I believe it's Kaiju number 8.
All right. Kaiju number 8, chapter 62.
Boyfriends.
Yep. So Reno is unleashing more and more ice powers from the super kaiju, and he's just thinking to himself, I need more power. I need more power to do this. But he's dealt a big blow to the Hanju, but it's in its second phase. It's just stronger now. You've got to relearn its attack sequences. But as he rushes forward, Reno is thinking to himself, if I had been stronger, then Kafka wouldn't have gotten hurt. Iharu wouldn't have gotten hurt. So I have to do this. And he blasts his way forward as the Hanju unleashes a breath attack at him, and he launches off with such speed that it's starting to damage the muscles in his legs.
Oh, just like me in the garden.
Yeah. So, at first, like the analysts are all like, "Oh man, he's so fast, and he's destroyed the enemy's unorgan." But they started to realize, like, oh no, his blood pressure's rising. He's got muscle tears in 6 locations. He's pushing himself too hard. He can't hold up. Is Kaiju number 6 causing him to lose control of himself? And the captain says, "No, it's not. What you're seeing is just Ichikawa. See, when numbers weapons users sync with the massive energies and cells of a Daikaiju, it triggers stimulation in their brains, causing a spike in their neurotransmitter levels and transmission rate. As a result, their basic human nature and desires bubble to the surface. Depending on their personality, the impulse is strong enough to destroy their own bodies." So, yes, it's the kaiju, but I see what he's trying to say.
Who's the true enemy here?
So, the scientist is like, oh, but this never happened during his training camp. And it's like, well, yeah, but the battlefield's unpredictable. Basically, he's in an actual real-world situation. So, of course we tend to see this just in tests. And he thinks to himself, like, yeah, if he can't control himself, then I'm not going to be able to authorize the use of this weapon. But Reno's thinking about the same thing, and it's like, yeah, I've got to do this. I've got to, master this weapon. And we see that Reno's like locked inside of himself right now. In his own mind, he realized like something's wrong, and he's got that impulse, like, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. But he also realizes my entire body is in pain, but I can't even control my own thoughts. I just have this need for more power. And it's starting to even like take over his mind as like, his mental, the image of himself in his mind, it starts to have this dark cloud kind of creeping across his skin. So he's unleashing more and more giant waves of ice. People are like, oh man, he's attacking more indiscriminately now. And people can't even get to him to help now because of all these waves of ice that he's summoning. And the captain thinks, like, is he just trying to just do all this by himself to the point that he's rejecting outside help? His sense of responsibility is unreal, which is possibly the lamest possible thing you could have described as unreal. But his sense of tidiness is unreal.
His appreciation for wine is unreal.
Reno is like, his power is paying dividends. Like the Hanju's regeneration is being outpaced by the amount of ice that's being summoned. Its body is being frozen over. But of course, Reno's body is just suffering more and more. He's now got 16 muscle tears and 4 hairline fractures in his bones. Yay.
That sounds pretty bad. That sounds like that might actually be worse than my injury.
And eventually Reno lands heavily on the ground and his leg just completely gives out under him. And his expression is still like, I'm going to kill everything. But he's looking back at his ankle and knee are at an odd angle because his tibia is fractured. So that's not good. That's very, very bad. And the captain's like, well, he's failed. This is no good. I mean, he communicates with him and says, look, Ichikawa, look, it's the end of the line. We're going to move in and neutralize it. And he starts to issue orders. And Reno just feels devastated by this. Now he's not even thinking about like how his body is beaten up or killing this thing. He's just thinking to himself, I'm going to lose again. I'm so weak. I'm weak. I'm weak. I'm weak. I can't save even a single person. And Iharu comes crashing through the ice to save his boyfriend. And he's shouting out his name. And everyone's like, wait, what's going on? What? And Iharu gets on the communicator, radios Captain Ogata, and says, please, give Reno and me a little more time, please. And everyone's like, I mean, that area is not safe right now. You've got to evacuate. Oh, he jumps over a thing of ice in the way. Oh, he hurdles over it. He's running through it. He's fine. And the captain is shocked by this. He's like, what's that guy's unleashed combat power again? And she says that's 24% on record. He's like, he's performing at that level with 24%, which honestly, like I don't think we've gotten a very good grasp of like what power levels are in this series yet for you to actually have that have any meaning. So.
I guess it's saying like, oh, he's only unlocked 24% of his full potential, and he could go even higher, I guess.
Maybe. And Iharu starts, going on over the radio while dodging around ice about how awesome Reno is. He's like, he's a really hard worker. He's incredible, and he's so incredible. It's hard not to envy him. And I swear, he'll get the job done. And he puts his fingers between two things of ice and starts pulling them apart. And he shouts out, ain't that right? And he breaks through the ice and goes to see Reno. And he appears in Reno's mental vision, extending a hand. Aww.
Nick, last week he talked about how somebody just ran past him. And now he ran to him.
Isn't this great? This is very nice.
I feel like I just know these two. I've started to put together a top 10 list of top 10 couples who are gay in manga, no matter what they say. And I feel like this needs to be a very high one because they won't make these two gay, but they're 100% gay. Like 100% gay characters. Like I don't think you can convince me otherwise.
Yep. Well, we'll see how long it takes for one of them to just get a random female love interest that isn't convincing at all. Like,
yeah. Andy shows up. He's like, I've seen you, Haru. You've always had your eyes on.
You don't know any female characters in Kaiju number 8, do you?
There's Kikoru, but I guess I do want someone to get paired up with Kikoru that's not Kafka, because then that can end that concern.
Just put a little bit of insurance on that one. It's like let's just cover that. Let's cordon that off so we don't have that one.
There is another female character that they shown in like background shots. I don't know if she has a name though. But yeah,
there was another female agent officer of importance in their original unit. Yes, but I don't remember her name either. So
that's what I think we're going for.
Putting aside the only 1/8 joking, these guys are gay and it's very cute stuff. This is a really nice moment, just in terms of like shonen friendship kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's really nice to see this used also to develop a character that has had very little development prior to the story arc. So it's really nice.
Reno and Iharu have both come out of this story stronger. Like I do love seeing Iharu or Reno's desperation hit a breaking point where he's just collapsed completely. He's hearing all of his future plans kind of go down around him because he just kept pushing himself too hard and it started to fail. And then Iharu coming in as this supportive friend who's always going to be there, like, hey, let's do this, like, don't you give up. It's nice, it's very sweet. Basically, Reno now has his own Reno, and I think that's very nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about another combat series and friendship, although this one the friendship is sad because people die.
Yeah. So last chapter of Spy Family ended with Twilight encountering Frankie for the first time. We were like,
is this Frankie?
Yeah.
Is it? Because it doesn't, like, the way this ends seems to suggest it's not.
He's got the glasses. He's got the hair.
But I guess we need like another flashback to show like eventually Lloyd meets him again. It's like, hey, you're that asshole I gave a cigarette
It
to and
abandoned
ran
me.
away.
So we get clarification that, so Twilight is part of the Westalis military at this point. Frankie is an Ostanian soldier, but he's a deserter at this point. So, he's like, no, please don't kill me. Please don't shoot me. Can I have something to eat, please? And eventually, Twilight's just like, I'm just going to shoot you. But eventually he's like, please, I don't want to die having never been with a woman.
Like,
and Twilight's just so like what the hell? What's with this guy? And he's like, all right, like I'll give you like a cigarette, okay? And
cigarette. He just, I wanted a Snickers.
Yeah. He just turns into a really likable person.
Sorry, I get weird and incelly when I'm hungry.
So we basically just get this conversation where Twilight is kind of forced to realize that, I guess not everyone on the other side of this war is a complete monster like I've been letting myself believe, so that it would be easy for me to kill all of them in my giant revenge crusade. And Frankie tries to put a spin on this by being like, there's been this experiment where they show like how easy it is to kind of get people to be okay with violence against others. They show this image of like a woman slapping a guy, and a lot of people were like, oh, what the hell? Why'd she slap him? But then they did the experiment again, and this time they told the participants, oh, this guy cheated on his wife, and everyone was a lot more pleased by seeing him get slapped. And it's like, did they have any reason to actually believe what they were told? But they just kind of bought into it, and suddenly they were a lot more okay with that kind of violence being inflicted. And so it's a very broad way of explaining, like, yeah, this is just how easy it is to be lied to and believe that it's okay to kill each other. And that's it. And, they kind of wax philosophical a little bit about this until Twilight's like, yeah, but you guys started the war. And Frankie says, yeah, but my side says that the West started it. They say that the bombings against the West were just false flag operations to justify the war. And Twilight gets pissed off about this because, of course, in those initial attacks, he lost his friends and family. So it's a bit of a literal trigger for him. And so he's like, I'm going to fucking kill this guy. He points a gun at him. He starts stomping away at Frankie. He's like, this is all your side's fault. You took my world away. And he's going to kill them. And he's like, I've done all this. I've done all these horrible, evil things because I have to pay back everything that's happened to me, to avenge these deaths. But as he's thinking that, a bullet hits him in the helmet and knocks him to the ground because, as it turns out, Frankie's been being pursued because he is a deserter. So the Ostanians find them both. They're both enemies. And so Frankie's like, well, bye. And he runs off into the woods. And Twilight has to escape as well. And that's the last we see of them, bounce off each other for the entire rest of the chapter. And there's quite a bit more of the chapter left after that point. Yeah. That's really just a footnote in the much broader story that happens. Which, like, if you take this out, it's like the entire real story loses nothing, really, except to just know, like, oh, so Twilight and Frankie met during his time as a soldier. That's it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, the end of it, I guess we're going to get more of a flashback later on, and, like, this is, like, sort of a setup to that. But I did, like, end the chapter thinking, I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't supposed to be Frankie. Maybe that was just supposed to be someone else. Because the way they part with each other would seem to indicate, like, oh, Lloyd's like, this dude sucks, fuck him. Like, I hate this dude. But I guess if he's a deserter, then they do pick him up at some point, or whatever.
Yeah. But as a result of being shot in the helmet, Twilight, of course, is injured, and he's taken off of the front lines. We see him later on, chilling out in a reserve camp. And he's got, his eye is bandaged up. Like, he is clearly not in fighting condition right now. And as a result of being in this place, he runs into his friends again. The friends that he thought died in the initial attack at the warehouse. and they all recognize him, and they are like, "Oh my God, we thought you were dead." And Twilight starts to cry because he's thought they've been dead this whole time, and he's blamed himself because he was the one who found the warehouse for them to play in. So he's kind of carried that guilt of, I'm the reason that they were there when the bomb hit. But as it turned out, that when he ran off, they all kind of went to find him, and so they weren't there when the bomb hit the warehouse. So they're all fine. They catch up a little bit. They learn that he actually outranks them, and he's a sergeant instead of that. And so like, oh man, I can't believe this. And Twilight just says, look, I don't care about ranks and all that stuff. Look, I just want to hang out with you guys again. Can we do that again? Are you free? We could go to a restaurant. And they say, oh, we'd love to, but our squad's actually being deployed tonight. We're being mobilized. They overhear someone refer to Twilight by his current cover name of Roland, and they're like, what? That's not your name. He's like, it's a nickname. Yeah. So they say, okay, yeah, well, when we get back, we'll let you know, and we can hang out. And they wave goodbye, and they die on the mission. Oh,
I was so angry. I was like, "Oh, his friends are back," and they're like, "No, but they do still die." I was like, "Well, now I'm just sad again."
And the lesson that Twilight takes from this is the operation that they were assigned to was really, really badly designed and just ill-conceived. And as a result of that, his friends died. And so it kind of occurs to him, like, if I had known how badly the operation was designed, could I have told them about it? Could I have stopped them? Hell, could I have, stopped the whole operation and had us go on a better plan or something? But I didn't have that sort of power. And I didn't know how to get that sort of power. I didn't know anything. I didn't know the real reason the war had started. I thought there wouldn't be a war at all. I'd been convinced they'd all died in the bombing, and I hated the enemy without knowing why. And I picked up a gun without knowing why. And I obeyed my country without knowing why. Ignorance isn't bliss. It's weakness. It's a sin. So information's very important, and that's why he becomes a spy, basically. But then we kind of get a whole thing. There's a guy that he meets who is in a no, I'm not important at all trench coat and fedora, which makes him very like, this guy looks like Zenigata from Lupin. He stands out so much among all the like just random plainclothes soldiers and stuff that are there. And he addresses Twilight by his real name, which is still censored at this point. Like when his friends addressed him, it was still like blacked out because it's still no, that you're not allowed to know that. And he introduced himself as being from military intelligence after calling out Twilight on, oh, yeah, you faked your age and faked your name so that you could join the military when you were too young to do so. And I see that you've got a real talent, but there's a weapon that'll suit you way better than any gun, which is information. And he says, like, there's no nation can begin without information, but we're shorthanded. So why don't you lend us one of yours? As in, lend us a hand, but it's a really weird way of phrasing it. But anyway, he says, yeah, so join us, or I'll have you court-martialed. And he says, like, yeah, be there at this place at this time. Twilight goes to it. He meets up with the guy, and then the guy says, you got all your stuff that you brought for the barracks? Throws it into a barrel fire. Goes like, nope, we're leaving that identity behind. Nope, they're tossing away your name and your rank and everything. And Twilight says, well, nobody knows my real name anymore anyway. So I don't care that I have to, leave my identity behind. And for that matter, I don't care about if my country wins this war or not. And the information officer's like, well, then why are you agreeing to do this? And Twilight just thinks about being a kid and playing with his friends again. And he just says, no reason.
Aww.
So the information officer says, come with me, little liar. And hey, he's introduced to his contact. And we just kind of get this, I guess, I don't know, traumatic burst about his training, and then he wakes up because this has all been a dream from the chapter prior to the flashback when he collapsed when he learned that Anya had a detritus bolt.
I did not call that Lloyd passing out from hearing about the tinnitus bolt was going to be the catalyst to getting his flashback.
Yeah. So Lloyd's awake and he's like, oh, right, I'm in this house and this is really weird. And Anya's like, did you have a bad dream, Papa? And he says, I don't remember. And his memory of the dream is muzzled the way that, dream memories often are. And Anya pats him on the head and is like, it's okay. There's nothing to be afraid of, which is very adorable. And then Lloyd says, why was I asleep on the sofa? And Anya says, when I told you I got a tinnitus bolt, you fell down. And then she runs away. She's like, no! And she apologized for screwing things up. But Lloyd reflects on what she had told him in full, which was, but you got closer to Damien, right? And he thinks again about his playing with his friends as a kid. And he says, well, then that's a good thing. Friends are important. Cherish them.
Aww. I cherish you, Nick. I want you to know that.
I cherish you too, buddy.
Thank you.
And then Bond's stomach growls. It's time for dinner. Yay!
Are we all like that?
Bond is all of us.
Yeah, that's a little bow tie. I love that little guy. I love him so much.
Yep.
Good chapter.
Yep. We're through all the traumatic flashbacks and stuff, and we ended on a happy family gathering. Isn't that nice? Yay! Let's move on to Eden Zero, which I'm sure will be just as quality.
Just as heartwarming. Nick, let's talk about Eden Zero, chapter 191, Zombie Nurses. Now, Nick, why would a chapter be called Zombie Nurses? Well, you're just going to have to wait and see.
I don't know. What nurses do we know about Eden Zero? I guess Sister? Could it be?
Yeah, Sister's kind of a nurse. Maybe she's dead.
Maybe she's undead.
It says nurses, though, so it must be multiple. So maybe there's multiple. I don't know. So we open with Clown, who has teleported Rebecca away. And Happy and Pino are like, oh my god, bring her back, please.
Fuck you.
Happy looks really distressed here. I don't know if it's just my version. I can't zoom in at the moment, but he looks like I guess in his mind, he's like, my world has just been taken from me. But Clown says, so sorry, but terminating that little girl is not the real purpose of my creation. Tee-hee-hee.
Yep.
So we cut over, and Shiki follows up by asking Wizard, what's your real goal? Wizard says, I have nothing more to say. Okay, fine. Here's some extra details. He just says, I have lost, but the other dark stars are stronger than I, which is such an unnecessary detail to throw in there, but all right.
I feel like someone might have gotten Hiro the memo of like, dude, if you have Shiki beat this guy that easily, no one's going to think anyone else will lose to the other Dark Stars. Like, he is the weakest Dark Star!
Who for some reason chose to fight one-on-one with the strongest member of their group. So Shiki gets teleported back to the arena, and Homura and Brigadine are still there, and she's like, hey, wait, where are the others? And they're like, oh, they've been sent to other dimensions. And Brigadine's like, to suitable battlefields. Ah, you've vanquished Wizard. And Shiki absorbs his memories through gravity. And we see what presumably Brigadine looked like before. And it's him hanging out with presumably a version of Valkyrie at one point. He's like, wait, that's Valkyrie's memory. Is that you next to her? And
it's a fair question. He can't see any of Brigadine's features at all, so he might as well ask.
There is like a small part of me that's like, it's a little suspect that there's been only like 2 dark-skinned characters in this entire manga. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to even talk about it, because instead it's just like, oh, hey, it's the same thing as Valkyrie. You must have known them. Brigadine's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm her counterpart. Contact between us is not requisite. Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, so you both lost your memories or whatever. And he's like, all right, fine. I'm gonna go deal with Ziggy. And Rugin's like, that's not possible. You cannot escape Killer's subdimension program. This is a fight for honor, for yours and for ours. And then Killer's like, you heard him. This is perfect. I was just getting bored. He teleports Shiki into the game. And he wakes up strapped to an operating table. And Killer is there. Is like, don't bother trying to struggle. You're in an electronic dimension created by me. It doesn't matter how strong you are. I rule this.
This is such like little kid game logic that's going on here. So we had this whole thing where Shiki and company had super bondage training so that they could learn to use their ether even if they were bound up. And so Shiki ends up in a situation where he's strapped to a table, his limbs are bound. So he starts to unleash his ether because he's done the training so he can do that. And literally the only explanation we get is, no, it doesn't work because you're in my dimension. I guess Shiki's stuck there. It doesn't matter that we had the whole thing to say, no, it'll be fine if he gets even if he gets tied up. This time, he can't get out of being tied up because it's special being tied up.
He's in another dimension. This guy controls it. So he's like, don't worry. I won't kill you now. I will finish my prey later, but I must first deal with your friend. Perhaps if you're lucky, your Prince Charming will come to save you, my sweet princess, which is a line. And then Shiki imagines being a princess being shaved by Weiss and is like, ugh. And I like to think it's not because he feels emasculated by a differing gender role, but that he's like, ugh, Weiss has to save me. Gross.
I mean, that would be my first instinct about that whole thing is like, why does Weiss have to save me?
Why can't it be Moscow?
And also, if I'm going to be in a princess dress, the last person I want to have around me is Weiss, because you just know it doesn't matter. It's like he'll see his skirt and he'll act inappropriately towards me. So
he's the one character who's going to be really weird about it. We cut over to Weiss, who is like, why does this hospital seem so familiar? And then a bunch of zombie nurses burst out of the walls and start attacking him. Nick, if you were curious why the title was Zombie Nurses, 15 pages in, they show up. So don't let it be said this is false advertising. This chapter is called Zombie Nurses. We get them. And they have gigantic tits, which Weiss points out because he goes, oi, jeepers creepers. They're gratuitously sexy. They're also robot zombie nurses, so I feel like the chapter title should have included that as well.
Robot zombie nurses is a way better title than just zombie nurses. So
he runs, he uses his ether gear to basically make a giant door in the hallway to save himself, and he's like, wait a minute, I know this hallway, I've seen it before. And he goes into a room, and there's his sick mom, and Weiss is like, oi, mom. So we're gonna get Weiss having to confront a bit of his past.
I have 4 quick notes I'm going to rattle off here.
Okay.
2 of them are positive. 1, I like the way that Weiss uses his powers to just close a door in front of everyone by like changing stuff around. It's cool. Secondly, I like that we have a first-person shooter sequence here where we literally, have one panel showing Weiss's point of view, and he's got the gun in the side of the screen. That's fun. 3, so Killer says, there's no sense in fighting. Brigandine is a weirdo who finds beauty in that stuff, but not me. I prefer to make sure I finish my prey. And to have fun while I do it. Hold on.
I don't get distracted by things like finding joy in combat, but I do enjoy slowly peeling and torturing my opponent. So, Daddy gets his.
And 4, actually, I have a 5th one. It'll be a bit of a broader point. My 4th point is Clown made sure to teleport Rebecca away and leave her shoes behind so that she'll be barefoot wherever she shows up, which...
obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Come on. Why wouldn't he?
So the broader point now is that we've seen 2 examples of the Dark Stars meeting the Shining Stars when they were human or whatever, and they met them in their previous life and had their memories erased. Both of them seem to have an indication of a certain vibe existing between the people that appear in the flashbacks. And it makes me think, like, does Hiro just like, his throw it in anyway heterosexual romances so much that he's like, well, these two female characters are dead now. So
gotta confirm
after
at
the
one
fact,
point, yeah.
I'll give them male love interest.
Well, part of me's like, okay, so are we gonna confirm that Clown had some connection with Sister and that Brain Killer or whatever has some connection with Hermit then as well? Because those two, I guess Clown, it could still be up in the air. The Killer just seems like an asshole. So I don't know, but I guess you could just say that they've been transformed. That maybe if he remembers, he's like, all right, I had a fucking robot girlfriend at one point or whatever. I don't know. I guess he'd probably make him like a gamer dude or some shit like that.
It's also a little bit weird because Killer seems more like Sister's parallel than Clown does. Because he's, he's got all the torture stuff and the nerd and on the hospital scene and stuff.
Well, Nick, there's a key detail you're forgetting. They're both S's. Doesn't work otherwise.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I got you. They would be incompatible, right?
Yeah. You got two DOMs. Someone needs to be the sub. Just doesn't work.
Okay. No, I'm happy with that. Yeah. Gross. So,
ew. All right.
Just because Killer's involved in it. Story 13 of Akane-banashi. We get Akane. I think that this opening shot on the title page is just unrelated to anything that's happening, but I really like it. She's just like kind of like reciting some stuff to herself. It's cute. So, we get a little bit more information about the Karaku Cup, which is the Rakugo competition that Akane is considering taking part in after her teacher gave her the flyer for it. And we get that information via an interview being conducted on television with Arakawa. And so they go through it, and Isho Arakawa says, like, oh, yes, the limitations were relaxed recently so that, there could be high school participants in addition to there being college vocational participants, because I don't get to observe amateurs very much in my position, especially young amateurs. And so I want to see more and more Rakugoku. I want to see a wide variety of them. And the interviewer is like, oh, okay. And then Arakawa just kind of decides to blast through the tension and says, am I not how you imagined I would be? Yeah, I get that a lot. And one chapter after we got, holy shit, this guy is the villain. Look at how evil he is about wanting to perform Rakugo. He just kind of seems like a chill old dude who's really passionate about his art. He's like, yeah, people always think I'm really frightening. But hey, my job is to make people laugh. So come on, relax. Huh. Yeah, I can see why this guy's, popular. I'm sure that as we learn more about him, that the truth will still exist somewhere in between how Akane visualizes him and the image that he currently projects. But I do like that, the first time you get to see him properly, he's just like, oh, hey, how's everyone doing? That's it. So he also says that the reason he has to judge the competition is because he wants to show the younger generation the splendor of Rakugo. And he brings up a very straightforward point, which is, look, a lot of young people aren't into Rakugo, and our audience is kind of getting old. They're going to die out. Our profession is going to die out if we don't start getting people who are younger to be into this and to start cultivating a new audience. And then he does start to look a little bit more intense and evil, because he's like, look, what future is there in a performance art that doesn't draw in new enthusiasts? There's an overwhelming abundance today of entertainment options, so we've got to ensure that the cultural flame doesn't burn out. And it's an interesting thing because it's like he's talking about a thing that people observe as a problem for many different entertainment mediums, which is there's so much that people have access to. How does any one thing find its audience when there's so much stuff demanding everyone's attention at any one given time? There's this thing that I see a lot because I, follow wrestling news and stuff, which is the ratings for Raw are down again. And it's like, yeah, the ratings are constantly going down. It's not necessarily an indication of how well the show is doing because everything's viewership is going down except for like sports. And that's basically it. So it's a very modern thing of like, we got to find our audience and we got to keep on growing it. And also, this news is being watched on a smartphone. So there you go. And it is, who's his name? Garika, I think is his name. The first apprentice that we saw that Akane met.
Yes, and I'm going to say yes, you're right.
So we'll find out. I think his name is said later in the chapter. So she's kind of going over, Akane's going over with him like what he wants to do, which is enter this event. And she says, well, if you want my advice, you should leave. Or you should clean the yard with me. And he says, like, look, you're going into this, it's an amateur competition. And I know you're not officially joining as an apprentice until next spring, so you're eligible. But I don't know. I mean, like, the reason that you're here is because you want to be a pro. So it sort of makes it seem like you're proclaiming that, oh, I'm not a pro, I'm just an amateur. And I feel like that's a dishonest thing to do. Like, look, I'm not going to make up your mind for you. That's just how I feel about it. And I do think that maybe you'd kind of be turning your back on our master in order to enter this competition. Also, like, why would you want to chat with Isho Arakawa? That sounds like torture. Yeah,
I love it. Like, this dude blows.
Yeah. But Akane says, that's my goal. I want to ask him why he kicked my dad out of the school. So, yeah, fair enough. It's an opportunity for her. And then she gives him, her thanks because she says, look, I know you're trying to look out for me, but I've got to get going. And I'm going to go and ask permission to do this. And she talks about, like, look, it usually takes like a decade to reach the rank of Shinuchi. In the Arakawa school, you can be promoted as long as you meet the requirements, regardless of how long you've been around. And there's no guarantee you'll meet those requirements while that man is still working. I might never get another chance like this. So, I'm sorry. And she barges past him to go and talk to Master Shigema about this. And she missed herself. Look, I'm not really proud of this. I know it's dishonest, but this is an opportunity I can't let get away. Master Shigema is immediately like, yeah, go ahead and enter. Which is, I think, the third time in this series that someone has built up like, oh man, this is going to be really difficult to ask someone about this. And they're like, yeah, sure, it's fine. So
yeah, why not? Whatever.
Get past that. Keep going. Guriko. I was close. Guriko, not Gurika. So, and also Shigema's like, yeah, I heard you guys talking outside, so I don't have anything more to add to what he said. Your mother said the same thing, so there's no point in me trying to stop you from doing what you want to do. However, if you want my permission to enter the cup, I do have one condition. You've got to do Jugemu. You can only do Jugemu in this competition. And we get a very brief explanation about what Jugemu is. I have actually seen this performed because, as they say in this, it is such an insanely well-known routine that even people who aren't familiar with Rakugo hear about this. And it's just that Jugemu is the first part of this child's name that has something like 50 syllables in it. And so the joke is the person, in acting out this scenario, this child gets into different bits of trouble and stuff, and the parents have to say the entire name every single time. And it's like, okay, say this 50-syllable name perfectly in different emotions really quickly every single time. That's the joke. So, as it's equated in this story, if you're told you can only perform Jugemu, it's like, okay, go out and win this boxing match with just a right straight. Don't use any other punches. It's very limiting. So.
Uh-oh. That's going to be tough.
I guess. I don't know. I've never boxed. So.
I feel like it'd be... He's set to keep punching people straight forward. It's gotta be, he's like predictable at some point, right? Like, I just keep going in with the same punch over and over again. But can I trick them? Can I play mind games? Hold on, I'm trying to game the system. Can I have hidden in my fist a pocket full of sand? So I open it with my straight right, and then when they're blinded, I just go bam, 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 and then I win.
I'm gonna say yes, but I'm also going to say that they put the boxing glove on over your hand, so then the sand You the first time you try and throw it, it comes pouring out through the back.
I was gonna say it comes back into my eyes like ah.
And then you're like, that guy blinded me, and you win by disqualification. Yeah, so it's perfect.
I had Iguero, and I'm like, he's blinded me. Even though there's sand clearly coming out of my boxing glove at the end, I'm like, he's cheated.
Who put this sand in my glove? Yeah. So Akane agrees to these terms, and she goes off to practice. And while she goes off, Shigema looks down at the brochure, and he says, presumably to Arakawa, "This isn't your style. You always were a daredevil." So Akane goes outside and tells Kuriko, "Yeah, I got permission from him to do it. But I've got to perform Jugemu. I have to do it." And he says, like, "Yeah, well, all right. That is a tough request, though. I don't know if you're going to get a very good reaction because people are so familiar with it. It's not the kind of story people tend to do in a competition." But Akane's like, "Well, I told him I'd do it, so I'm going to do it." So he says, "All right. Well, in that case, you should ask Kogama Ani-san for help, because he is the Shigema School's best Terakoya, a master of old literary teachings." And we cut over to Kogama, who is the glasses-wearing apprentice that we have seen before.
This apprentice.
So, hey, we're getting introduced to another one of Akane's Ani-sans. That's cool. I like how we're just kind of like being introduced to them and giving them each a little moments to show what they're about. And I like that, of course, they have their very straightforward expertises. Very shonen.
Yep, I like it. Seems like it's gonna be cool.
Blue box.
Let's talk about the blue box, Nick.
Chapter number 52.
The cute little characters doing their cute. I saw a bug. I saw a bug on your screen. I'm sorry, Ray. We've derailed the podcast for about 5 minutes now as Nick has to find this bug.
Gotta kill this thing. All right, chapter number 52. Of course I want to see it. I want to see that bug when I kill it. Last time, Hina told Chinatsu that she has told Taiki that she has feelings for him. Chinatsu's response, very poker face, just like, "Oh, okay."
All right. That's so.
So Hina seems a little bit taken aback by this, but she's like, I mean, yeah, I figured, like, since you're living with him, that I should also let you know so that, avoid, like, misunderstandings and stuff. I mean, I'm not going to act differently around you. But Chinatsu kind of interrupts and says, like, actually, I'm not living with him right now because my grandfather's undergoing surgery, so I'm living with my mom for about the next month. And Hina gets really embarrassed because she's like, "Oh, then I told you all this for no reason." I hope the surgery goes well. Bye! But as soon as he is out of sight, Chinatsu kind of slumps thoughtfully against the copier while it's going off. We cut over to Taiki. He's at badminton practice. People say that he seems more relaxed than he has before. He looks a lot more comfortable. And he's like, I mean, I don't really feel that way. I know I'm improving because I score points more easily. I can feel myself getting better, but I still feel like anxious. So I don't get it. They huddle up and learn that they're going to have a practice match this weekend. It's going to be against Sajikawa High School, which includes the one super rookie guy who killed the fuck out of Taiki at the last tournament.
Oh, no.
So that's what Taiki's thinking about. They say, like, look, we've got to beat these guys because if we can't get past Sajikawa, we're not going to be able to make it to nationals. And Yoda, so they're thinking about this. Taiki's lost in thought about stuff. Hina comes to see him afterwards. She's like, "Oh, you got a practice match on Saturday, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, but can you, like, not be, like, reading your lines off your script while we're walking?" And she says, "It's more efficient if I do it this way."
Like, look, I know what it's like to multitask. That's my entire mind. The idea of doing all three of those things at once makes you be like, one of these
talking
things ain't happening.
And reading.
Yeah.
And walking.
She's insane.
Absolutely. So Hina says, "Hey, well, I've got to be at school to practice the play. but I want to come cheer you on during your game. And he says, well, it's just a practice match. You don't have to do that. He's like, yeah, but it's a tough opponent. I want, and somebody you've lost to before, and I need to, you to be emboldened and such. And he's like, oh, just leave me alone. And I want to see the person I like trying his best. And Tiger's like, why'd you have to say that? And he steps around to look at her, and she's kind of blushing, and she's like, and she starts to beat him with her script and stuff. It's a little cute moment.
Yeah.
Later on, Chinatsu comes to the court. Taiki is alone on the court by himself, practicing badminton. He's up in the air to do a really cool jump serve thing. And then he realizes, I guess, how late it's gone and he's got to clean stuff up. So Chinatsu, starts talking with him. And she's also heard about the match. And he's like, God, everyone knows about this who's anywhere near the gymnasium, basically. And she says, yeah, I've got practice in the morning, so when I'm done with practice, I'll come and watch you. And he's like, you have to come. It's like, yeah, but it sounds fun. It's not an official match. And Chinatsu just says in a full-page spread, don't really know why, but it's a full-page spread of her just like casually adjusting her tennis shoes and stuff. Like, yeah, come on. Of course I want to see it. I want to see it. And then Taiki has this moment where he thinks about what Hina had said about, oh, I want to see the person that I like trying his best. And he's like, and then he can't add up 2 and 2. He can't. They just that doesn't quite. So he gets a bit lost in thought. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just thinking something weird because of what Hina said, and that's it. So he's like, all right, if you want to come, you can come. And Chinatsu says, yeah, I've got to watch my morning practice buddy when he's being so fearless. And then she challenges him to a race, and that's how the chapter is.
I like this chapter. It's very cute. I like seeing that both the girls are like, all right, we're progress this in our ways. Hina is very upfront, which is like, hey, I like you. I want to go to your game, even though it's just a practice match, because it seems really important. And, Chinatsu has her own strange way of being like, I definitely probably like him, but I don't know how to say it. But, it's very clear from, how she says and does everything. Like, okay, she's pursuing this her own way. I do like that. There's a Twitter account I like to follow now that just memes basically all the series saying their own names at points with movies. So it'll be like, this really was our Toy Story, everybody, or
right.
whatever.
This really was our blue box.
I really wanted them when they were talking. He's like, news really travels around this blue box, so to speak.
There is no blue anywhere in this gym. Well, what are you talking about?
The gymnasium itself is blue.
Is it?
Yeah, that is why the series is called Blue Box, is because the gymnasium is blue and all the story is happening basically around the gymnasium.
I did not know that.
It's the first page or whatever of the series. I don't think it's ever come up again since then, but they do mention that.
Cool. Okay. Fair enough. I just remembered what series we're covering next.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Still going. Doron Dororon, chapter 22, reunion. I'll say one good thing about this chapter. He's got a shoulder bag on, but he's got no arms. He's on a skateboard, and he's got no legs.
He's so cool.
That's silly. That's silly. Yep. There's been a mysterious death. This guy who was there was this game center that got attacked by a demon, and oh shit, look at this shriveled up old guy. He was 18 years old. What's happened? What's happening with all these corpses and stuff? Hey, Kusanagi, you wouldn't have happened to have met someone who has powers that work this way, would you? We wouldn't happen to have anything that's embedded in your mind by a traumatic event? No? You don't recognize anything? Okay, we're gonna get that Mononoke! That's about the first 4 pages. Naotora had a meeting with the director, and she got worked up because she's like, I want to work with Dora. So they do that, and then they go around investigating. They don't find anything, and we see, a snouted Mononoke guy looking through some Venetian blinds. Which, if he's peeling down the Venetian blinds, that means he's inside that building right there that's looking at them. Okay. Then they go to sleep. And Kusanagi's in a blanket cocoon thing, but he hears a voice calling out to him. He's going, "It's me, Kusto-san! Help me! Help me!" And Kusanagi's like, "Oh my gosh, he's talking to me with yokai magnetic waves," which I know have been established because we saw.
It just sounds dumb, though, right?
It's not well established. You know what I mean? Like it really feels like it's something that could have used an actual explanation at some point. There's a lot of mechanics that do get detailed in this series, and that just seems like an important one for like how things can happen. So it's the Dosan who clearly has the snout. So, oh no, it's the bad guy. And also we knew Dosan's last name in the last chapter, rather. And so, okay, so he's like, please, I'm in trouble. I came out here so I could apologize to you, but a Mononoke attacked me. Please help me. And Kusanagi's like, okay, I'll get Doron. Well, you're right there. No, I can only trust you, Kusanagi. Only you should come. Come alone. With no help. Okay. So
I truly, as I read this moment, I was so confused in the sequence of events. Because I'll be honest, so I only read the chapters this week, maybe like 3 hours before we actually recorded. I've just been really behind on reading stuff recently. And I read this chapter, and as I was going through it, I was just like, I'm sorry, why did Kusanagi go alone? And even now, still can't understand it. Right? Like I was just like, all right, I understand. He's like I have a big issue with the fact that Kusanagi, as we find out, is established in the backstory. Is like, I remember when this man murdered my best friend in cold blood, but I'm gonna give him another chance in almost the exact same scenario.
Look, everyone gets along in Doron Dororon. Okay, everyone's just friends. So when there's no conflict ever, why would you think that there would be conflict here? So Kusanagi finds Dosan, he's got a little bit of ketchup packets smudged on to make it look like he's beaten up or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, I've been hurt. I'm so glad to see you, Kusanagi, and I'm so sorry for what happened back then." And it turns out Kusanagi had an ugly friend back in the day. Look at that ugly little Mononoke friend that was his friend. And they're like, "Oh, look, we got some fruit to help make Dosan feel better. Let's bring them to Dosan to make him feel better." And he's like, "Thank you for this. Yum, yum, yum. Oh, it's not enough. I've got to eat you." So he drained Kusanagi's body of energy and only got away because his buddy knocked Kusanagi away in order to save him. And while the life blood was being drained from his body, he was shriveling up like a prune. He was like, "Yeah, my Kusanagi, my friend, save your fools."
So two things. One, this hideous thing looks like a pug. So I was actually kind of glad to see it die because pugs are revolting creatures. But two, I could not stop laughing as it's like, "Don't you worry, my dear friend, save yourself." And I'm like,
yes, this is the exact time for cute speech patterns. As
my friend, please, I was like, Nick, if our situations are like this, I want you to be like, "Nick, it hurts so much. Oh my god." Like, I'm not going to be cool on the way out.
And Dosan literally said, as Kusanagi was running away, "You're next, Kusanagi! You're next!"
I'll follow you. No matter whatever tricks I need to pull, I will find you and bring you down.
"I'll separate you from any human friends that you have by making up a sob story about how I've been attacked and need your help, and I'll hug you in gratitude, and then I'll eat you." Anyway, so in the present, Dosan's hugging Kusanagi, and that's where the chapter ends.
It's such a baffling chapter. Look, I understand. I've heard Golem Hearts essentially was very similar, where it started off kind of okay and then just kind of like fell apart towards the end or whatever. But this was legitimately like a chapter that, like, as I read it, I was like, I just could not comprehend what was happening. Like, every little bit of it, I was like, okay, I guess fucking Berserker Girl is just a main character now because Jinchio is gone or whatever. And I don't know, she's just not interesting, but whatever. And then, okay, this dude's spying on them. Okay, Kusanagi leaves, not with Dora, whatever. And then we get a flashback of like, hey, I'm Kusanagi, and there was like another friendly Momonoke, and then the elephant guy ate him. He's a monster. But I'm gonna give him one more chance. I know he has knives for hands, but I'll still let him hug me because, like, come on, he wouldn't do it twice. Like the old adage is 100%. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it's on you again. We're gonna keep going. Just you need a couple more times before I take responsibility.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. No, don't do that. Come on.
Wouldn't do it twice. Who would do it twice? Nobody's gonna do this twice.
He does almost the exact same thing. He's like, no, I'm sick and weak and need your help. Please come to me and get really close to my life-draining trunk. Just like, when I give you a hug, make sure that you're at the level where I can just kind of turn my head and suck out all of your blood in one go. Please, I need your help.
Like, I'm not even sure, like, what the story implications are of, like, why is Kusanagi doing this? Like, what is this meant to inform about his character? I was like, I know that sometimes we joke about characters like Iwega. It's like, oh, he's so sweet and wants to help people, even to, like, a comical farce end of it. But I don't know if that's really Kusanagi's character being like, I know this guy murdered one of my best friends. But he wouldn't do it a second time. Come on, guys.
I feel like if Ogata just finally snapped and stabbed Ruka, that Yuiga wouldn't be like, okay, we just need to find another way for you to learn English. Like, you'd be like, okay, something else needs to be done here. Like, I think we need to give him that much credit.
I want to see his perspective where he's like, I had a lot of backup plans. I cannot believe this one worked. I can't believe that I was like, you should meet me in the park and let me hug you again. I didn't think that would be enough to get it done. I guess I can return all those anvils and zip ties that I purchased before.
Hello, Acme. I need to return a purchase I made.
Oh, let's talk about except first.
I've got a puzzle for you.
Yeah, we had to talk about podcasters, postulate, pretend, something.
All right, here we go. I'm not sure about the way this one turned out, but we'll see. Partisan.
Chris Jericho.
Nope. Partisan.
Okay.
Practices Paragon's patents is potentially pejorative.
Okay. That's a lot.
That's a lot of 3-syllable words right there, so. And I have to admit, this is a bit of a stretch, but
we've done Funakai.
You've done Funaki.
Fair. Say it one more time.
Partisan practices Paragon's patents is potentially pejorative. Do you want me to give you, like, what I intended these to actually mean?
Sure.
Okay, partisan means fan, in this case. Okay. Paragons is like, a hero or someone to aspire to. Patents is signature or a trademark. And pejorative as in the use of a pejorative.
Is it Daniel Bryan?
No.
Okay. Getting all angry at the fans chanting yes, and he's like,
Oh,
no.
interesting. No. Pejorative in not in terms of like teasing as insulting.
Oh, was it Kurt Angle when he got really excited? Everyone started chanting "You suck" to his theme song.
You're much closer with Kurt Angle than you are with Daniel Bryan, I'll tell you that much.
All right. Who got angry when people were mean to him?
It's
Is it John Cena?
no.
Damn. Is it
Try going back to the previous
Rene
part.
Dupree?
You're actually much closer with Rene Dupree than you are with Daniel Bryan.
Rene Dupree. How am I close with Rene?
Than with Daniel Bryan is what I mean.
Okay. It's gotta be. Is it? It's not anyone from Right to Censor.
No.
Okay. You may have stumped me on this one.
No, Carito Prime. It's, or rather Rudor. Sorry, the names went up. It's not Pajon Pacina.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might be stumped on this one.
What's a wrestler that would use his hero's finishing moves?
Oh, is it Eugene?
And because his gimmick is probably not very well thought out and offensive, so yeah. For those of you principally unaware of Eugene, in the mid-2000s, they introduced him as a special boy, and that's all you really need to know, because it was A, the mid-2000s, and B, the WWE. So
it is astonishing how many different levels of problematic that time period was when you go back and you're like, man, it's all over the place. Like, there were weird angles involving women all over the place. The Mexicools came out to the ring riding lawnmowers. Like, you're like, God damn. Vince McMahon said the N-word on television at one point.
Yeah.
You're just like, this was a very problematic time for wrestling.
Yeah, honestly, looking back at all the stuff in the periods, like people talk about like, oh, the Attitude Era was so edgy. It's like, yeah, but at least they like, it was an active, we are trying to shock people thing. Whereas in the Attitude Era, it's like, this is what's cool, right? It's like, no, not anymore.
Please stop.
All right, let's move into the chapter itself. Chapter 32, Mimin. Hey, it's a chapter all about Mimin. Yep. There's some people that we haven't really met talking at the beginning of this, and they essentially just talk about like, so what was with Lucky's performance? I mean, it was weird. I think he made some mistakes, but the biggest problem was it was the Joyful Island, but it felt like we were drowning. So I don't know about that. It felt like, even though it did feel like we were experiencing it. I look forward to what he does in the future. So it's like, yeah. And then,
the puppet from the Goosebumps books shows up.
This terrifying person.
This character design is horrifying. Like, if this character showed up in fucking Higurashi or something like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is an appropriate character design for this.
It's like, it's the everything. Like, the giant cuffs on the jacket, the hair, the red eyes.
Why are the eyes like that? Why are the eyes like that?
And that fucking smile are like, I'm going to stab you.
I will feast upon your entrails tonight.
Apparently the people that are having this conversation all recognize this person, however, because they go, but you're... but we cut out into the lobby where Mimin is talking while going up the stairs to Lucky and Furusu, and just says, what, you're not going to the final, Lucky? Aw, I guess I won't get to hear you play at piano at the Nationals. Aw. But Lucky's like, hey, so that whole thing about how I'd be banished if I lost, is that going to happen now? And Mimin's like, no, No. Sorry, Lucky. Sorry, Boing Boing, for all those mean things I said before. Nope.
I like just says, I won't do it again. As though,
Yep.
like, I won't threaten to banish you from this world of
Yeah.
which all of your passion and purpose in life comes from.
Yep. Anyway, water under the bridge. Ponytail dude, whose name I still refuse to remember, says, "What did you mean when you said you came to her rescue at the Tokyo? Came to rescue her at the Tokyo final? Are you going to do something to Miloli?" And Mimin says, "I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to show her I'm free." And we see the finals, and Mimin's like not in like her formal dress or anything. She's just in her usual like skimpy shorts and tube top. And she just kind of like prances out onto the stage while wearing sandals.
She's happy.
Yep. And it says Mimin had chosen to play Liszt's Mephisto waltzes, but instead she played Brahms' Piano Concerto No. 2, which immediately is like, okay, so she's disqualified because she played something else instead, but she's gotten away with it before, so maybe not. But when she plays, she summons this entire orchestra of fairies, which of course all have Miloli's appearance, and all of them are dancing and playing
I love it.
different instruments.
Two different things here. One, I love her playing because you can see it's just one gigantic arm raised up in the air, which really implies she does like the most dramatic, like she's just like playing, but she's so skilled she makes it work. But two, Nick, tag yourself. Which fairy are you? I am saxophone fairy.
I feel like
because that seems like the anxious fairy. Like that feels like the fairy who's here, but they're worrying about a couple things. Like she has a lot on her mind.
I imagine that I am the leftmost keyboard fairy. Like
Okay.
I've got to focus if I'm going to do this well. I wish, however, I were Symbol Fairy
I was
instead.
gonna say, Symbol Fairy seems like they're having the best time.
Does I don't care that my sleeves are too long.
Fuck this.
Yeah. And of note, as you know, everyone's watching the performance, and you know, Lucky and Furusu are surrounded by all these fairies playing instruments and stuff. Aw, there's a little fairy Lucky and a little fairy Furusu, and fairy Furusu has bunnies, which is like. Yeah, I guess that makes sense that Mimin sees her that way.
Yeah.
Considering she's calling her Boing Boing all the time. And they're kind of like chasing each other around with like a conductor's baton and an accordion. And Lucky and Furusu kind of like watch this and they just have a little laugh together. It's very cute. And Mimin thinks to herself while she's playing, I'm having so much fun. I really do love the piano. And I love this piece. And I love Elise and Revolution too. I can play on the streets or anywhere. As long as I can play freely like this. So, today's my farewell to this world. This is the last time, so I'll make it extra special. I'll perform the version everyone likes, too. And she summons the trees that everyone says are the best version. And as the trees kind of replace the fairies, she kind of looks out to the audience and I guess looks directly at Mimin and she says, "See ya!" Miloli, rather, I should say, she looks at. And we get narration saying that, while the hall was filled with the resonance of her forest, Mimin left, weaving through the trees. And this time she is actually disqualified. But Miloli is thinking to herself after it's over, like, yeah, she was disqualified, and I won first place, and she's gone from the classical world. But I feel frustrated and jealous for some reason. She seemed so free and cute and carefree and beautiful.
Like, she's kind of talking about
two different expressions for how attractive she finds Mimin. So,
I mean,
yeah,
I can feel it happening in this one, Nick. This one, they're gonna do it.
So Miloli thinks to herself, like, I thought that I'd be happy if she left, but things didn't really turn out that way. Whatever she does, she'll always shine bright in my heart. It's just as Sadame said. Then it's fine. Shine bright, brighter and brighter. Despite your existence, when I'm able to love my own playing, I'll truly be free.
Aww.
And then I'll be happy to have met you. So next time, let's really battle it out. Aw. Also, she's contacting Fanta.
Fanta, don't you wanna?
Yeah. But it's another Otagami sibling. So.
Yeah. Great little chapter.
Yeah, I liked
Mimin's
it.
awesome, and I like how they're progressive emotionally, and she's not quite there, but she's got to work on herself a little bit too, which is a healthy way to approach a relationship. You know, even when someone does a big gesture, doesn't mean you automatically like a movie had to get together. Maybe you got to work on yourself still.
Yes, that is all true.
And I also just like Mimin's playing, and then at the end being like, I still want to give everyone this great show, so I'll play like they want me to play for a little bit, and it mixes the two of them together, and her eyes are actual piano keys at that point. And I don't know, this series is just so wild with everything it does. Like, there's a scene where they see Mimin on the steps, and her hair is like shooting out in like, it's like 8 feet off in different directions, and you're like, fuck it, man, this series is wild. I don't know why the creepy ventriloquist person is like, hey, where does Lucky go to school? I hate it, but I am like, yes, this feels right at home in this series.
It's it's kind of weird because what it is about, which is just, artistic expression, is very much like, okay, there's a lot of like kind of sloppiness to the artwork and style of the series itself, but it's very expressive. So it's very appropriate for the kind of content of the story. So, yeah. All right, let's, I guess, talk a little bit about Super Smartphone. I don't want to go into the details of this because it's kind of boring. It's a lot of explanation of like, oh, well, Q's got to earn points by using the Goo app. And he does this first by just like Googling a random person that he sees in the street, and he gets a point for, quote, invading the privacy of the general public. And he's like, why'd you give me points if you're berating me? And Q's like, or Kimmy's rather like, I'm not berating you. Just earn some points. So Q is like, all right, well, there's like these conditions that are in place for the app, which are, as I earn more points, I'll, learn the smartphone secrets and stuff. And I can't reveal the secrets to anyone. And I can't relinquish the smartphone, otherwise I'll lose it. There are other conditions. Also, I lose it if I die. Okay. And there's more information about it that he's not privy to just yet. So Q's like, all right, well, I'll earn some points. And while he's just sitting in class, he basically solves a crime just by Googling stuff. And the phone's like, you earned 1 point for making a small contribution to society. And Q's like, I mean, I just solved a major case, but okay. So he does more Googling and stuff, and here's another point and stuff. So he's like, I'm just like randomly cracking cases one after another just by fiddling around on a phone. To which I say, yeah, it's kind of a boring premise, isn't it? Yeah. But he's like, this is actually a really dangerous device, and I wonder, who gave it to me and what I'm expected to do with it. And we do get a little cool kind of story that plays out here, which is that there are some girls who have stolen the phone of another girl and hidden it from her. So Q uses his device to figure out what's going on by basically just looking at a text conversation the two of them have had about it. And so he's like, okay, what do I do? And then he realizes, well, the best thing for me to do in this situation is actually nothing. Because if I try and interfere, then it will potentially like expose myself and not actually cause any benefit. So he just waits, and he finds out that the phone has been hidden away in the locker of a guy that the girl it was stolen from likes. And it leads to, a bit of an icebreaker for them to talk to each other. And it turns out the two girls who stole it from her weren't trying to play an awful prank. They were just trying to play matchmaker. Aw.
It is an absolutely bizarre sequence that he goes from like catching wanted criminals and like insidious people to then like, oh, hey, some local girls are bullying another girl, and he's like, perhaps I'll get involved. And for a moment you're like, okay, I can see what you're going for here, because sometimes the smallest stuff, local to us is also very important. And, he's looking out for somebody around him, and he's turning to care. And then that's not how it is at all, because he just waits 5 more seconds and he's like, oh, wait, no, they're actually doing a nice thing. And you're like, I'm sorry. So is he just using his phone to spy on people then?
He's a creep.
That is not nearly as interesting of a thing for this character to do. Because he even talks about that later on. He's like, I guess I just got to look at a bunch of girls' private messages, and I found that more interesting in cracking cases. Like, well, then you're just a weirdo. You're just a real-ass weirdo.
We get a brief cutaway to the Metro Police Station. We're introduced to an officer named Nagi Seomizu, who's like, where the hell are these tips coming from for these cases? So it seems like they'll be, I don't know, involved in the future somehow.
Elle has to be involved so we can make sure.
Elle's got to be involved. Yeah. They're even sitting in the chair like Elle. Like, I mean,
yeah, come on.
Q gets enough points that he unlocks stage 2 on Goo, and he learns that if he gets 1,200 something points, then he'll unlock it permanently. But until then, he's got to have a weekly quota. So it doesn't fill the weekly quota, gets taken away, and he's got to eventually gets it permanently. And then he's like, wait, this means that like I'm not the only smart super smartphone holder, right? Right? That's what's going on, right? And Kimmy's like, I can't tell you that, Dave. So Q's like, oh, but man, this is a really powerful device, and if there are other super phone holders out there, then how many are there, and what kind of things would they use them for? If any of those people are trouble, then the world is in trouble. And then a riot breaks out because someone coordinated some rioters, and the girls from before are they're gonna have a sleepover pajama party, but it's also while the riot's going on, so maybe they're in danger. I don't know. Anyway, that's the chapter. So
Nick, we still need one more chapter before we can decide if we're gonna keep reading.
Yeah, I know.
I went like the first chapter of this series, I was like, it has some weird parts to it, but I came away still being like, I ultimately kind of like this premise. I still wasn't sold on the art, but I was like, I still kind of like this premise. This one, I feel like the premise just immediately nosedived into something. I was like, I guess it is just less interesting Death Note, but I don't get what the protagonist is trying to do right now. The entire chapter just felt like a gigantic waste of time.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Mashle.
Yeah, that is what's next. All right, let's talk about Mashle. Magic and Muscles, Chapter 107. Mash, Burn Dead, and Friends, and Training to Grow Strong. Sounds good. So we cut to last time where Dot and Lance are fighting Matter Ordell in masterful training. They have to protect 3 vials of water over like the course of, I think it's like a week. So it's going to be tough times, and Dot's talking about how he already lost one because it got destroyed, and he's already kind of gone through one. And he looks over, and Lance still has seemingly a whole bunch, and so much so that he's drinking water, and it's kind of like dribbling down the side of his face. He doesn't even seem to care that much. Like, he has water to spare. That's how well he's doing. The fight just keeps going, and not to just dive into every piece of dialogue, but Matter is just like, you suck. You blow. It's not personal. You guys just suck. So just if you died now, the world would honestly probably be better off for you. Not because like in a sinister way. There you go. Do. Oh, did you get it? No.
I don't know. There's no gross thing on my hands.
He's basically just like, look, this is how it needs to be. And if you don't like the rules, you either become stronger or you don't. Like, that's just how it is, So Dot is like, hey, fuck you. I don't care. I've got guts. Use a bunch of explosions. And he's like, oh, man, those spears, I can't block them. Then Lance shows up, blocks some of the spears, and it's like, oh, they're dividing their defenses between the 2 of them to keep their remaining water safe. And then we get a flashback to somebody Order must have known, who says, anyway, when it comes to passion, I can't lose. I'm going to do what I can for the world and everybody in it.
Isn't that the guy from Doron Dororon who headbutts things?
No, I hope this character's better. So order's just like
Then a character from Doron Dororon? Oh, you're asking for a tall order there.
Yeah. He's like, you got 4 more days. Going over to Finn, who's doing some cooking, and he's just like, I asked this man for help if I could be used to anyone, and I've just been cutting fish for 3 days. And Kaido again is like, oh yes, your technique has gotten quite good, and he just dumps like just an absurd amount of honey, like an egregious amount over fish. He's like, delicious, and Finn's just like, wait, this dude is training me in magic, right? Then we wrapped up the chapter. Mash has finished his you must beat every Dark Souls boss that's slightly stronger than you all the way to level 99. And Meliadul's like, you're very impressive. You will now be training with me personally. And I like it because we literally see 2 panels before. Even the panel before, we could see she's changed. Like, she's in her, fucking, like, long fucking dress. And in this panel where she's like, you'll be training with me personally, she's put on, like, a button down. Like, and it's a Mash, like, when did you change clothes?
He was looking at her before she changed clothes, so that's a good question.
She also makes note of he might even be able to acquire that technique that even I could not have managed to learn. And then we just get a montage of all the characters doing their various training,
including Finn holding a live fish.
Yep. And then we time skip forward like 3 weeks because they're like, hey, now there's only 3 more days till the eclipse. And we cut over to Innocent Zero, who's saying, they are making preparations for the eclipse, but they are unaware of our plan. A mistake that will cost them their lives. As we see the gigantic army of giants and I forget, like halflings or some shit was in there. A whole bunch of stuff is marching upon the city where Mash and all them live.
Yep. I don't really know what's going to go on with this freaking army because I don't know. It sort of feels like Mashle doesn't really do those kinds of battles.
I feel like Mash is going to punch them all and they're going to die or something.
Possibly. But it is also interesting. It's like, hey, we're going to see all this training and stuff. And then we just see like Finn's just cooking fish.
Yeah.
It's legitimate. It's like, all right, so is he actually training? Like, I don't know. I have
no idea.
All right. Let's go into the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 62, Armor 1335. It's day 1 in Yorishige's army camp, and Tokiyuki really didn't like wearing armor all day. It nearly killed me. We get this explanation that a full set of armor weighs over 30 kilograms, which, I mean, this is just, like samurai armor, not a full, like, knight suit of armor. But you're still talking like 70 pounds, essentially. So, and Kojiro also brings to the point that, like, yeah, and also the army serving under him, they're really seriously unmotivated. And this is demonstrated by them looking outside of the tent. And Yoroshige's like, they're just all picking their noses. Just all of them simultaneously just digging up there with their pinkies all together. Because they're like, yeah, I mean, we'll obey Yoroshige's orders, but we're just like following that runty wet noodle of a kid. So everyone just kind of got bored while marching. And then one guy started picking his nose. And a couple of other guys started picking their nose when they saw him. And then 10 guys were doing it. And then 100 guys were picking their nose. As everyone got really bored, they were like, oh, I'll pick my nose too. That's how it happened. So, one of the priests brings up, like, should we, like, reveal Tokiyuki's army, identity, rather? And Yorishige thinks to himself, like, I really didn't want to do that. I wanted him to, spend the last month before the confrontation wearing armor, bonding with the party. But there's that one Tengu that's spying on us. We got to be cautious and delay some of our preparations. And he says, like, look, if you remove the armor, it's not going to be good. It'll seem unseemly for a commander. It'll be unsafe. But Tokiyuki is just beyond this, and he just throws the helmet down, and he says, look, I want to earn the soldiers' respect through victory, and I can't do that while wearing this armor. And Fubuki backs him up and says, look, he's going to need to be agile in order to use the techniques we've been practicing. Tokiyuki is really enthusiastic about this. He's like, look, I need to strip down in order to run in comfort. And everyone's like, that one kid, he's still such a weird pervert, because that reputation is still following him apparently like 3 years later. But hey, Shizuka's got a solution, as she seemingly always does, which is that she has prepared a special set of armor. Hey, look, it's chainmail. It's essentially, and it's much lighter. It's much more suitable for the kind of stuff that Tokiyuki wants to do. It's much more form fitting, and we get some narration saying that starting in this period in Japan, wartime armor became slimmer so that people could maneuver more easily. Makes sense. So Tokiyuki puts on his new set of armor. He immediately goes outside, and he gets the attention of one of the officers and calls to him while darting around him. And the guy is so shocked by this that while he's still got his finger up his nose, he turns really quickly and kills himself by shoving that nose in all the way to the second knuckle. It's gross. So Tokiyuki says, "Look, we're going into danger, but you must obey my orders, and once we win, you will never pick your nose again." This is so weird. And a battle happens, and Hoshida's army attacks the Kakushi's army. Sadamune has expected this, and he sends Ichikawa and reinforcements. And Yorishige advances in pursuit of Sadamune. And tactics and positioning. Anyway, so Hanzo's like, we're going to be attacked from there if we don't do a thing. So we're going to reposition. And it's battle tactics. Tokiyuki's like, hey, let's do this thing. They get Rei up on a cliff. Tokiyuki gets excited about the danger that they're in, and they're like, all right, here we go. And he got this idea actually because when he was playing tag with Yoritsugu, he noticed there is this one tower, and Shizuku says, "Yeah, people use that once every 7 years for this really reckless thing," which got Tokiyuki really excited, and he gave him the idea for this. So they set a bunch of logs on fire and surf them down the mountain into the army. So. Yeah, they surf burning logs down the side of this cliff face. And everyone's like, what the hell is happening as they charge into Shokan's army? And this is referred to as the Flaming Holy Pillar. Yep, sounds about right. And Tokiyuki lands directly in front of Shokan after they crash into his army. And he says, today I have come as a commander and I will see you defeated. And Shokan's like, oh, this is going to be fun. And that's the end of the chapter. So.
Yeah. I would like the chapter more without some of the weird other moments in it.
Yes.
But for the most part, it's fine. Looks cool at the end.
I
like the flaming battle. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a very sudden escalation from everything else where it's like, oh, this is kind of silly. And then just kind of dull, positioning discussions. And then it's like, oh, hey, we're surfing giant flaming logs down the side of a cliff. Cool. All right, we'll see how the next chapter goes. Speaking of fire, chapter 1049 of One Piece, The World That Should Be. So Luffy is punching Kaido, and he is repelling the giant flame dragon that is surrounding the smaller flame dragon that is Kaido's current form. And Kaido actually congratulates Luffy on reaching this point, but he says, but you cannot change the world. And we get a flashback montage to just follow Kaido's early life and how he came to be a warlord, told very, very abbreviated, which is what he was super strong from the moment that he was 10 years old, which is 46 years ago, which, timeline matches up, in terms of how old Kaido is now. And, this is kind of where we start to see a little bit of those, similarities that Luffy has with a number of his villains. In this case, Kaido just says why the hell should we, obey the celestial dragons? Who cares about that? And as a result of his being an asshole and causing a lot of trouble, he was enlisted in the Navy so that they could make use of his strength. And Kaido's like, what the hell? This is bullshit. I don't want to do that. So he escapes, and he's immediately put on wanted posters and stuff. And he, goes on adventures for years. He's still just 15 when he's kicking everyone's ass, taking over islands and stuff. And he's approached by Whitebeard, who says, "Hey, you want to be a pirate? Join the Rocks Pirates." So that happened. So he was part of the Rocks Pirates. The Rocks Pirates are no more. Okay. Look, there's a lot of information that's crammed into like 4 pages here. And that's dropping a lot of references to stuff that we've seen some reference to previously, but some that we haven't as well. And we see him meeting, the fortune teller lady that was instrumental in Orochi's takedown of everything. And she says, "Weapons that speak loudest in the world are what speak loudest in the world we live in. And I've got a deal for you." And that was how we started getting into all the weird weapons production and stuff. And then we cut to, I don't know, 5 years ago, much more recently. He's in control of Wano at this point, and he's talking with King, who is not wearing his mask because we've already had that reveal, so it's okay if we see flashbacks of him not wearing it. And he just says, "Well, I wonder where that kid heard it, because Yamato dropped Joy Boy's name. Apparently Odin's desire to open the country is meant to welcome Joy Boy." And he says, "If he's the same as the man you're waiting for, King, then I think I know who Joy Boy is." Okay. All right, so we finished all that up. We cut to the present. The CP0 guy is leaving. He's just dashing through. "All right, I've done my mission. Bye." Hope that Luffy's dead.
Sounds like everything's gonna work out for you guys. Peace out.
Momonosuke is still trying to move the island, and he's like, "Luffy's gonna win. I know he will." And Yamato's like, "Move the fucking island!"
God damn it.
And he is desperately trying to move the island. People on the ground are throwing their lanterns up, and they're still celebrating the festival. Inside the dome, people are feeling all of the commotion, and also fire is everywhere. And, oh, right, Raizo and Jinbei sending out water everywhere to extinguish the flames. Oh, that's a lot of water. I hope that all the people that have eaten devil fruits don't drown. Oh, dear. And then a thing happens. Stuff starts to collapse, I think, is what's happening. A bunch of people are, I guess, brought together by the water.
Uh-huh.
Yep, all that's happening. Oh, hey, look, Orochi is dead. And
he's gotta be. Right?
Right. And Denjiro says, "You've been so brave and strong all these years, Lady Hiyori." And he hugs her, and she cries. Okay. So then, oh man, the island's collapsing. Then the flame clouds are gone. The island's gonna fall. It's gonna fall. Meanwhile, Kaido is saying, while biting on Luffy's giant hand, "What kind of world can you create?" And Luffy starts to give his answer, and Momonosuke desperately calls out flame clouds, and it works this time. Just a bunch just spurt out of his stomach, surround the island. It moves the island out of the way, clearing the way for Luffy to punch the hell out of Kaido. As Luffy says, "I will make a world where my friends can eat as much food as they want." And that is a big punch. And he punches Kaido, who goes flying down into the ground. And we see some of the flame lanterns saying, like, "I wish that genocide hadn't happened," basically. And as Kaido falls...
I want just one of them that's like, "I'd like a kite." Like, and everyone's like, "Ignore that one." The rest of them are more plot significant than that one.
One is like, "I want a floating flaming lantern. Oh no, I threw this one away. No!"
One of them just says, "I'd like Megas XLR to come back for season 3.
And the one next to it's like, "Wait, it was 2 seasons?" I was just one.
And then one after it's like, "I think it was." I remember a lot of episodes, so it seems like there was at least 2 seasons. And then like another one after that's like, "I feel like there were 2 finales, so I feel like it was 2 seasons."
And then the next one's like, "Why did that show get canceled anyway?" And then the one next was like, "It didn't sell toys, I guess." I don't know.
It's like 40 of them in a row.
It's just a forum thread about Megasexual.
And then you find out it's just one dude releasing them. He's just like, I want to feel, if everyone sees there's a conversation going on, maybe they'll get involved.
It's the worst grassroots campaign ever.
You know, no one's going to see it. They're going to fly into the air at one point. Like,
yeah, God will see it.
He's the one with the power to control this.
They just get up to like Skype or something. They're like, what the fuck is Megasexual?
I don't know, but I'm going to make a third season of it, Wiper says as he loads his bazooka.
Chicks dig giant robots. As Kaido falls, he finishes the flashback, that last bit where he was having the conversation with King, where he says, I think I know who Joy Boy is. He's the man who shows up to beat me in the future. To which King did say, like, well, in that case, I suppose we're never going to see him. Which, I, why wouldn't you think that at the time? But, yeah. So, Kaido falls, and we see people, still celebrating and stuff, and it's kind of like, it's almost like they're celebrating the fall of Kaido. But I don't think they're able to see that. And Kaido falls, and also Momonosuke falls as Onigashima is safely placed on the ground in a big old whoosh in the ocean. And also Luffy is falling because, that took a lot out of him. That's the end of the chapter. That is seemingly the end of the fight with Kaido. We don't have a graphic yet that says Luffy wins, which has been showing up in like all parts of this entire arc. We'll see if that comes up, but it really feels like we're getting very, very close to the end. If not, we're there now.
I feel like we're there now. And now all we have left is next chapter, which I feel like is going to be maybe the more sort of cinematic resolution to everything.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel about this chapter?
It's good. The issue is simply just that, like, I don't know, we've been in Wano for fucking like 3 years now. Yeah. So like at some point I'm just like, oh, thank God. Like this should be the moment where I'm like, hell yeah. And I think here's like a weird thought I've had. So people have been showing me like various different clips from the anime, which recently got to like chapter 1 or episode 1000 or something like that. And they've been showing basically the stuff that happened around then. And the animation in One Piece right now is fucking incredible. They've been doing awesome stuff. There's one that's like, I think Crunchyroll titled like Luffy punches Kaido so many times it can't fit in the episode, and at the end you see punches going through like the credits, and you're like, that's so fucking cool. And I'm like, I will appreciate this moment so much, I feel like, when the anime gets there. But this that happened, I'm like, I kind of like, my instantaneous reaction was like, whew, finally. Like it's cool. It's just one of those things I'm like, all right, good. Like, kind of like, getting like a doctor's office visit like done with. You're like, all right, cool, got that done with, and then you move on.
I'm not going to say that this was a bad or disappointing climax for this huge long arc, because I feel like if we had, I don't know, the past year of stuff or whatever had just in general been more engrossing and more entertaining and more thrilling, then this wouldn't have needed to be any better than it currently is. Mm-hmm. Like, this was like a case where it's like, okay, you had a chance to, like, if this were just a really crazy awesome moment all on its own, then I would feel better about this whole thing. But it is not on this moment that everything that has happened leading up to it is a little bit disappointing. And I say that as like, it's kind of not great in a nutshell, but also this is a moment that we have, depending on how you look at it, been building up to for like 4 or 5 years to 10 to 12 years, depending on how you look at, events and things that were put in place to lead up to this. So, and, also like, this is like presumably Luffy beating one of the emperors of the sea, which is, the first time he will have accomplished that. That's a huge thing. And it's like, all right, we're there. So I want to like it more than I do. I know that a lot of people out there are like, no, I think that this was great. It feels like we've, had a satisfying conclusion to this long journey that we've been on, and I'm really happy with it. Not so much on my end of things, unfortunately. So,
yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up then.
Yes.
Do MVP and
favorite chapter. Yeah. Let's do that.
I think my chapter of the week, I'm going to give. I think I'm actually going to give it to My Hero. I really did like that ending bit, and as sort of like a climax, it did feel pretty awesome. I think if the end panel, like the end 2-page spread, hadn't been as strong as it was, it maybe wouldn't have happened. But I think after I saw it, I was like, this was a really cool chapter.
I did quite like it overall, but I'm going to give mine to Undead Unluck just because it hits the hardest in terms of like, well, okay, so this has happened, and we go immediately from the previous chapter of, oh man, what if Rip is the one who takes the arc instead of, no, that's not happening in this or any world. So, up there.
I'm going to give, in follow-up to that, I'm going to give my MVP to Andy, who I thought looked really awesome. Andy, I guess, / Victor. I guess Victor's technically the one who fucks him up at the end, but they are two sides of the same coin. And it is really awesome for Andy to just be like, yeah, I'm going to become a god of death if it means getting myself into that loop to get Fuko back, Yeah.
And I'm going to give mine to Mimin, because, that's a nice, satisfying conclusion to her little arc as an antagonist. She found herself and had a happy ending, and had a positive influence on those around her. Isn't that sweet? And now we're just going right on to like, okay, we've got another confrontation with the Onogami sibling seemingly right over the horizon that we got to build up to. So,
the audience, by the way, agreed with you 100%. Undead Unluck chapter of the week, and Mimin as character of the week. So, all right. Nick, I'm officially dubbing you the voice of the people.
Okay.
You're welcome. I expected like a celebration or some kind of reaction to that.
Mission Yozakura family sucks.
Oh, yeah, you are the voice of the people. You know exactly what they're thinking.
I haven't read it in like a year. I don't know if it's any good now or not.
I haven't read it in about 3 months, but I'm going to assume no. I guess only like 2 months. Sorry,
you can't dumb me like the people's champion or whatever without me immediately turning my back. Guys, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you all for tuning in. We record the show here Wednesdays on twitch.tv/RoloT, usually starting between 7:30 and 8 Eastern time in the evenings. You can check out the show live via that. You can also check out our past episodes at weeklymangarecap.podbean.com and youtube.com/weeklymangarecap. Also, the audio version is essentially wherever, podcasts can be listened to, including Spotify and iTunes and all of those places. But if you check out the video versions on YouTube, you can see the title cards made for us by Steve Man Art on Twitter, or generally, like, his art's posted basically everywhere, as long as, like, sexy stuff is allowed on the platform he posts to, essentially. Anyway, and the opening sequence of those videos are made by Malajack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar. Thank you guys for helping out with that. If you want to get involved in the community, we have a Discord server where you can talk about the chapters when they release each week, as well as the recommendation that we're working on. You can check out our entire list of recommendations that we've done and that have also been made for us to do in the future. Add your voice to that. Say which one you'd like us to cover in the future if you want to. Also, vote for favorite series and MVP as we read off the audience results earlier in the show. All that stuff is in a Google Doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i. Thank you for your help in that. We would have forgotten so many things without your help, as demonstrated in that episode that we did when there wasn't any manga recently. Because for weird, wacky episodes like that, you can check out patreon.com/weeklymangarecap, where we do a lot of sometimes very vaguely tangentially manga related talks. We do stuff like As Explained by Manga. We do tier lists and lists of stuff. And there's extra stuff that if you just like the two of us bouncing off each other, making weird wrestling references and manga comparisons and stuff.
SXLR tangents, yeah.
As SXLR tangents, all that kind of stuff can be found on patreon.com/weeklymangarecap for our subscribers. And that should do it. Follow us on Twitter, WMR Podcast, RoloT, Nick F. Time.
Yep. All right, that is gonna do it. Let's head on out. So I don't know what to follow up on and give a goodbye to, but
Is Sadame the ponytail guy's name in PPPPPP?
sure, I don't know. Why
All
not?
right. Maybe I'll. It does. I just happen to be staring at this one page where Maloli mentions that name, and I'm like, is that who she's talking
Yeah,
about?
sure, why not?
But it doesn't matter. I'm going to forget by the next chapter, and I'll be
Yeah,
like, ponytail guy. Yeah.
it's you know what we should just call him? Kyo. Kyo.
Go.
Kyo.
Go.
Kyo. That's to be every character we don't know. We're just like, oh, look at that good old Kyo over there.
Go.
Goodbye, everybody.
I know your name. Go.